Hey, what's up guys, another video here. So my camera system crapped out on me, so I will be using this format, and who knows, I may stick with this format in the future because it's less of a hassle with the video and the audio. But anyways, today I want to talk about the major flaws of Dave Ramsey and his system. And let me first off by saying that I do agree with his philosophy on debt and living within your means. So that's very, very important to live within your means and not incur incredible amounts of debt and to pay that debt off as soon as possible. So we're definitely on the same page in that regard. But the three aspects that I do not agree with him, and number one is marriage. So he suggests to marry because that's going to be a fast way to accumulate wealth and to achieve wealth. But I will disagree on that because I'm just going to use the statistic of using of approximately 50% divorce rate. So essentially, he is suggesting his male audience or the person that has the higher net worth to play roulette with their finances, especially if they don't have a prenup. So I think from that standpoint, it's very irresponsible of him to suggest marriage because there's going to be a chance that the marriage doesn't work out. And that's approximately 1 in 2. So from that standpoint, I think it's irresponsible because divorce will totally devastate your assets as far as asset split, child support, and alimony. And that's going to affect the higher net worth individual. So in many cases, the higher net worth individual is the male. And the male will be disproportionately affected in the family court because of how the judges will side on the mother for the custody of the children. So I think from that standpoint, it's very irresponsible for him to suggest that because of the rate of divorce and how males are disproportionately affected. So he's essentially being very irresponsible from that standpoint, suggesting marriage if essentially half, this regardless of race or religion, that there's going to be a high likelihood of divorce and asset split, child support, and alimony. So from that standpoint is very bad. Okay. So number two is his baby step where he suggests to pay off the home early. So that is a math situation. So essentially, if you take any money that you place toward the mortgage on top of what you pay for your regular mortgage and you put that against the 8% rate of return over the length of the mortgage and you're doing that every year, the amount of return that you'll have on that money that would have been otherwise spent toward paying off the mortgage early will greatly outweigh the amount of interest you pay and the appreciation of the home. So it's very, very rare where the home will appreciate 2 to 3 times its value, while investment you make will go 8, 10, 15, 20 times value just depending on what you place your money in. So I think from that standpoint, it's doesn't work out mathematically in your favor because if you again assume the rate of return of 8% per year and you place all that money into investments, then there's no reason mathematically why you would pay your mortgage off early. And people fail to recognize the fixed cost of owning a home after the mortgage is paid off. So that's going to include HOA, property tax, which will increase over time, the utilities, and the upkeep, the maintenance of the property. So I think that's a large flaw of his philosophy because these fixed costs will remain after the mortgage is paid off. And you will have to have some sort of income, either active or automated, to pay the fixed costs of the home. So it's better to have a large pool of money that's generating you automated income versus you working in perpetuity to pay off these fixed costs. So from that standpoint, I don't think it's a good idea to pay off the mortgage early on top of mathematically it not working out in your favor because the rate of return that you'll have on the money that you would have put back into the home will greatly outweigh the appreciation and the interest that you pay on the home. Okay, so that's number two. And number three is the use of credit cards. So Dave Ramsey's audience is more toward people who don't have self control and they are out of they're crazy with their debt anyways. So it's not really suggested for people that already have a mindset of living reasonably and not getting to debt. and it's really not for people who are investment savvy. So someone like myself, I'm more investment savvy than the regular person. So what's going to happen is if I use his method of investing, for example, only into actively managed mutual funds, what's going to happen is those actively managed mutual funds have much higher expense ratios than index funds or, for example, individual stock. So I get it if people want to make their investments on autopilot and they don't want to deal with individual stocks or ETFs or things like that, then sure, use that. But it's not for his system is not for the sophisticated investor and the person that's already living within their means. So from that standpoint, I really don't agree. And the folks that do have self-control, credit cards are an incredible tool to build up your credit. And this credit is going to be used toward, for example, purchasing a home. And he suggests to use manual underwriting for the home, but that will involve more paperwork, more time. So that may endanger your offer to the home, and you may not get as a competitive rate as opposed to using your existing high credit score. So from that standpoint, it's more geared toward people who have no self-control because he doesn't espouse using the credit card in any circumstance. But again, building your credit and avoiding the manual underwriting for something such as a home and getting the cash back on all your purchases that you would have made anyways had you used cash or a debit card. It's really a good weapon to use to build your credit and also get some cash back if you do exercise lots of self-control with the credit card. So just to recap, the three major flaws of Dave Ramsey's methodology is number one, him espousing marriage, where the higher net worth individual is going to be playing roulette because using the statistic of 1 in 2 marriages will fail. It's going to lead to asset split, child support, and alimony. Okay, and that's going to be devastating on the finances. So he's just using a view or lens of idealism regarding marriage. So I think that's really foolish to promote that with finances because it's very cut and dry. Marriage is a financial contract with the state, and if there is a divorce, the person that's earning the higher income and having the higher net worth will be disproportionately affected. So from that standpoint, it's very foolish and irresponsible for him to suggest that. And number two is paying off the home early, where you can use the money that you are paying down the mortgage early with into investments where it will greatly outweigh the interest you pay and the appreciation of the home, because the initial investments that you make early on will return 10 to 20 times the amount you invested. So mathematically, from that standpoint, paying off the home early doesn't outperform what you would have invested in the market. And number three is credit cards. Number one, they're going to be used to build your credit. Number two, it's going to build some money with cash back, 1 to 2% on all purchases. And number three, it's going to give you convenience. And it's definitely something you can use toward, again, building your credit and getting cash back on all your purchases. And number four is to avoid manual underwriting, which is going to have additional paperwork, more time, and you may not get as competitive rate if you're doing something such as a primary home residence or something like that. So hopefully you guys share this same perspective on why these methods are flawed. So I'm just using numbers and facts to explain why I'm against these three things. So number one, marriage. Number two, paying off your home early. And number three, credit cards. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you liked the video and stay tuned for the next video.